everyone, this is Star Zenith 33. How is everybody doing tonight? I hope everybody is doing just fabulous on this eclipse in Pisces. So I'm going to be talking about what many of you guys already know based on a lot of posts and information as far as the eclipse goes. But I said I was going to do it in English. I did do it in Spanish earlier. And so now I'm jumping into the English portion here in hopes that I can also get downloads. Okay. There's a lot of revelations that are going to be happening. And let's see if that happens. Okay. So let's jump in there. Okay. Thank you for following the podcast. And, you can subscribe to the podcast for free. For those that are interested in, instead of waiting for me to post it on social media platforms, you can subscribe for free, download the app, and add me on there. And every time you will get a notification every time I upload. Okay. So when I upload, you'll get the notification in your phone right away, and you can listen to it. Okay. So you can do that, and share it and talk to any friends and family that might not hear the podcast or just curious or interested in learning more about energies, which I talk about. The astro weather is literally like the weather in the news, okay? We look at it to see if it's going to rain, if there's going to be sunshine, if it's going to be hot. And they do predictions on there, which is what I do here. And also what I love about it is because I'm also tapped into the other side. So I will get downloads that pertain to the podcast. Okay. So let's jump in here. Since I did it in Spanish, what I love about being bilingual is that I can do it in a different language, and then when I'm going to do it in English, or sometimes vice versa, if I do it in English and then I'm going to do it in Spanish, I pretty much already know what I'm going to talk about, and I can shorten the second episode of the different language, right? Because I'm already familiar with what I spoke about in a different language. I know it sounds a little bit confusing, but for instance, I did the Spanish episode, and oh my gosh, I had a lot to talk about, probably a little bit too much. And I think it has to do because I was absent for almost 2 weeks and there was a lot to talk about. So I was trying to include it in there, not all of it, but just portions of it that I hadn't talked about. And so, I think I talked too much in Spanish. And so now that I'm going to be doing the English one, I'm not going to talk about all that. Okay. I'm just going to, get to the point, and get to the information, get to the meat and potatoes, literally. Okay. Also because there is a square going on. Okay. So our communication is not the best. What I feel the energy right now is very quiet. I feel the energy kind of very silent, very quiet, very mysterious, and it's weird, it's totally different than the Leo eclipse. Okay, the Leo was a solar eclipse. Okay, this one's a lunar eclipse. This has to do with the moon. And I don't know if you guys were out looking at the moon, if you guys were taking pictures. I know my neighbor was taking pictures and like right on top of like the balcony and stuff. And then I also took some pictures on my balcony, and I did a video as well. It was fascinating for me because I love all this scientific thing, this is why I do the astro weather, right? And also because I have strong Aquarius. So, I have Aquarius Jupiter, which is expansion, which is revelations, which is luck and prosperity and all of that. God's blessings and where there's wisdom and so forth. And it's coming together with the MC, which is the highest point in the chart on the 10th house. So usually when you have a Jupiter on your MC, you are a visionary, okay, like Steve Jobs. You are a visionary and you are born ahead of time. Okay. So you can see like your third eye is open. Actually, that's actually ruled by Pisces, but you know, it's like it's as if your third eye is open and you can see what's up ahead, right? Um, Especially if you're a reincarnated person like I am. This is kind of like um, a second go at it, and because the first time was not enough, so sometimes God will send you back, in a different body, in a different. I've always said, because I like to study all this history and reincarnation and the fact that we come back, if our mission was not completed, and we don't always come back, but sometimes God said, it would be good if you go back, and you complete what you need to complete, so you can be on the right level, because there's levels in heaven. You have to work through these levels, okay? And so I know that people that unfortunately things happen and their lives end, when they go to the other side, they have to work. Okay. So they have to level up and they have to study. There's a lot of studying on the other side. Okay. And so there's a lot of studying, a lot of graduating as well. And then you get to the next level and the next level, right? And so a lot of the people that their lives have been cut short, they're going to have to return, right, to complete. And, and they're learning on the other side of the things they did, the mistakes they did, um, and how to strategize, right? Also in a peace state of mind, okay? Because on the other side, there's nothing but peace, and and there's a lot of things. There's a lot of growing up to do and stuff, but I do believe because I did have a dream that I passed on to the other side and the afterlife, and it was prophecy. Okay, I mentioned this before. It had to do with a car accident that I was not going to make it in the freeway. But a dream came to me a week before that I was going to pass away. But God didn't let me go in fully. He didn't let me go fully inside. Um, but it was a choice if I wanted to stay here or I wanted to go to heaven. But God said, if you go to heaven, if you enter the pearly gates, I'll let you in. But if you enter, you're not going to enter in the level you want to enter in. There's a lot of work to do. So it's best if you just do it, go back to earth and do it in earth. And then you can come back and you'll get to the highest level, where you don't have to work your way up, you know. So I just said, screw it, let's do it, right? So, I survived that car accident and the car was thrashed, but there was no mark on me, there was no scratch on me. And I lived, right? And the rest is history. It's just been battle after battle after battle. And that's completed already, though. But it took a lot of years, almost a whole decade, you know, um, to overcome all this battle and all this war like that I was doing, tested in faith as well. And so that's what happens, right? And so now I'm just, waiting on God and his rewards and how he's going to reward me. I don't know. But we'll soon find out, I guess. So anyway, I don't know why I had to talk about that, but I want to talk about right now on the Saibin symbol. Okay, I'm actually slowing down now. I can feel me slowing down the energy, um, and right now the eclipse already happened. We're still in the portal, of course, and the following days there's going to things that are going to be happening. So we do have a square. Okay, actually, let me look at the chart right now. The moon um, the moon is squaring Uranus, okay, in Gemini. So that's the unexpected, shocking revelations, was like, oh my gosh, you know. There also is the moon is opposing Mercury. That's what it is. I knew I had to look at the chart. The moon is opposing Mercury in Virgo. Okay. And so also it is opposing the sun. And then what other asteroids? It's opposing gold. Okay. For those that are always, working with the stock market and so forth. Um, and let's see here. I believe that's it. Let me just check here. Um, it is opposing, the moon is opposing the south node in Leo. Okay. Um, and I mentioned it's opposing gold, and it's opposing Regulus, okay, which is the star about riches and fame, and it's in the sign of Virgo. Okay, so what's going on is that there is this T square. Okay, so T squares are challenges. Okay, they're challenges, and then they're oppositions as well at the same time. So it causes a lot of friction when there's a T square, a lot of chaos. It can affect your nervous system and give you anxiety and so forth if you don't have solutions. So as it opposes here, which there is a sun cazimi right now, okay, that is happening here with Mercury. That's when the sun and Mercury come together exactly at the same degree. Actually, right now the sun's at 4. Well, what time is it? Well, right now it's already past the eclipse. So this was at the eclipse happened here in the West Coast at 9:18 p.m. So I'm not going to change it to right now. It's 11:55 p.m. So it's probably already past. It's probably already the cazimi here is probably exact right now. So anyway, there's this. I'm hearing the word initiation. The word initiation is coming through. So something is beginning. Something brand new is beginning. Definitely as we release this Piscean energy. And I do want to talk about this release that we're doing is for the past 23 years. Okay. Is dating back to when Uranus had just entered Pisces, okay? And we have to count that. We have to count that dating back in 2003. So think about 2003, what was going on in your life, right? And it was there for about 7 years, 7 to 8 years. And then Pisces was not done yet, okay? Then Pisces entered Neptune, okay? And then it entered Neptune for, I think it's about 13 to 15 years around there, that transit in Neptune. And so it was a long transit. It just happened to leave this year, I think the beginning of this year. And then Aries jumped in there, right? So it's gonna be a long stay with Aries as well. But speaking of Pisces energy, so it had jumped in Uranus for 7 years, and then for another decade or more in Neptune. So we were not done with Pisces. Okay, there was a lot of spirituality. There was a lot of deception as well. Okay, a lot of fogginess, deception, lies, manipulation as well. A lot of us were lied and manipulated in our businesses, in our relationships, and so forth. And but that is what was happening. Okay. And so, if you look back 23 years ago, I kind of think about, for me with Uranus and Pisces, it was a time that I became a longshoreman. And I mentioned this in the Spanish. I mentioned this in the Spanish episode. And where I mentioned in the Spanish episode, I'm getting a download. That's why I'm getting the word poetry. Something about poetry. And then, wow, yeah. Mm-hmm. Um, I mentioned definitely revelations happening right now. I'm getting downloads. The word poetry, it was from my Spanish teacher um, at my high school, Banning High School, and he was from Spain. He was from Spain, and he was a Spanish teacher, and very nice man. And he actually was from San Pedro, but unfortunately, he got unalived by his own wife. It was a very sad, sad story. Very sad story. And he was such a nice man, but um, I don't know why that's coming through right now. Something about poetry and um, learning Spanish through him. Um, wow. So anyway, what's going on is what's going on here with the moon. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of thinking. I'm kind of picking up um, because I took his class. Maybe he's proud of what I'm able to do with the Spanish language. Because I know Spanish. I am Mexican. My parents are from Mexico, but when we're born here in the States, a lot of times we forget our Spanish or we don't speak it as well. We don't speak it fluently, and I didn't want to forget Spanish, so I took Spanish as an elective in high school, and I wanted to speak it like in Spain, right? In Spanish in Spain, and we learned poetry, and there was a lot of things that we learned there as well. He was a really great teacher. But now I'm using the Spanish for podcasting, for making a difference around the world. And I'm proud of that myself, but I don't know if maybe he's proud of that or maybe that's why he's coming through or something. That was a really rare download. Wow. Um, I would have never thought of that. But I have to use it, And if you know Spanish and you can make money off of it, you can inspire people and you can impact. Why not use it, right? So, and that's why I took the course because I felt I didn't know the Spanish language like professionally. And I wanted to learn how to write it and how to speak it and so forth. Um, and and I still don't know it perfectly, but I take a shot at it. Just people understand what I'm talking about. So anyway, um, the moon that is opposing this Virgo on the T square. That could be a little bit of challenging here. It's opposing Mercury, so maybe this is why I feel that it's a little bit more quieter than usual, because the eclipse in Pisces, it's more silent. When the eclipse, the solar eclipse was in Leo, it was pretty loud. There was major, major difference between both of these eclipses in the month of August, okay? And for me, it's like it hit my fourth house with the eclipse in Leo. And so it knocked me out, okay? It got me so tired, and I don't know how I was getting so tired. I couldn't even open my eyes. That's how tired I was. And I would try to get up and I wash my face and take vitamins. I am taking vitamins. I would take my B1 vitamin, which B1 is, it gives you that energy that you need. And it still was not working. I was like, gosh, this is really strong. And so the eclipse really hit my fourth house, which rules the body. Okay. And, because Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun is where you get your vitality, it is where you get your energy. Okay. Um, for me personally, it hit my body where energy and vitality and so forth. Thank God I didn't have no heart attacks or nothing like that, because Leo rules the heart. And I was checking also my blood pressure because I have this cute tool that you put it on your palm, and it's so fancy. I really like it. It's very high tech, and I buy it to measure, my how my pressure is doing, my blood pressure, and it's been normal. But I was really tired, and I don't know where it was coming from. I knew it was the eclipse, or something else. I don't know. Um, but little by little, I said, I know that once the eclipse in Leo starts leaving away and leaving and leaving and getting closer now to the Pisces eclipse, then I knew that I was going to start feeling a little bit better, and I was getting energy back, you know. But it took a while. It really did. It really knocked me out. And I needed to sleep, and I knew my body was calling to sleep. My body was calling to rest. Yeah, and then also the weather. It's been so hot, you know. Here in Southern California, it's been like super hot. It's been hot everywhere. And I just have been drinking a lot of water, and that's all I drink, just water. Like right now, I have my water here, which I'm going to take a sip. And so it could have been the change of weather as well. It was just like too hot, you know. And but I did a lot of things. I took like sea salt baths, and I did so much, you know, just eat healthy and so forth, soups and salads and so forth like that. But it really knocked me out, and this is why I stopped podcasting for almost 2 weeks. And it was because I my body just could not, it could not function, and I never experienced anything like that. So I knew it was the eclipse in Leo, and maybe it was a sign that God was telling me to take a break, you know, and rest and get the rest that the body needs, and then come back strong, right? Which is what has happened. Now with the eclipse in Pisces, it's a little bit more quieter. It's not as bad as the Leo eclipse, you know, which was more loud. There was a lot of things. I mean, I was even watching some videos in YouTube, and there were like coaches that were, you know, promoting like suicide hotlines, and just saying, you know, they're also were they were also talking about, this is a bad eclipse in Leo. You know, it really hit hard a lot of people, and a lot of people were more depressed. Um, I don't know what was going on. You know, what was going on is that it was opposing Pluto. You know, and so I don't know what degree was it on. No, actually, it was not opposing Pluto. It was at 20 degrees. That's why it hit hard. It was not opposing Pluto, because Pluto is too early degree. It's it was too early in degree right now. I think it's at 3 degree right now. Where it was, I think it hit hard because of the 20 degree. The 20 degree is of Scorpio. Okay. So, you know, most likely we were going to hear about deaths. We were going to hear of people passing away. And what's been happening? Dolly Parton passed away. Some athletes were passing away. Um, Hayden, what is it? Panettiere, I think that's her last name, passed away. You know, a lot of celebrities passed away. That rules Leo. I'm surprised we didn't hear Madonna. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I want her to pass away. I'm just saying because, you know, she's a famous Leo. She's probably protecting herself and so forth. Her or J Lo, um, you know, the very well known Leos, you know, in Hollywood. Um, but you know, it was a crazy eclipse in Leo, you know, because of the 20 degree of Scorpio. You know, it's very mysterious, powerful, you know, of how it was just like this mystery of how these celebrities, a lot of celebrities been passing away like flies, you know, like very mysteriously. Like they passed away, or she passed away, or wow, Dolly Parton passed away. I didn't know she was sick. You know, it was like, and maybe it was just her time to go. You know, maybe Jackie took her. I don't know. They say she used to like eagles, you know, and and she has a picture with a big old giant eagle. It's not Jackie the Eagle from Big Bear. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Jackie the Eagle passed away as well, but way before the Leo eclipse. But she showed a picture. They showed a picture of Dolly Parton with an eagle. She used to donate to Eagles, Association of Eagles, or something like that. And I just kind of joking said maybe Jackie took her, you know. And so, because that could happen, you know, there are people that pass away that they can take you home as well. Okay. If they think you're suffering, or they think that you're better off in heaven with them or something, family members will take you. Okay. So, yeah, and it's spirit, you know, just whenever it's your time, So we got to do the best that we can here, because that's why we are here, to be of service. We are here so that when we go to heaven, we can hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. You did what you did on earth. You helped people. You promoted. You created culture. You did the right thing. Maybe you were a hero. Maybe you inspired people. Maybe you help people, make a lot of money, or open a business, be more brave, be more courageous. And never forget that there are people that you would not think that they're listening to you, or they're looking at you on videos or something. And any wise advice that you give, and inspiring advice that you give, is really helping people. This is not a time to be breaking down people. This is not a time to be giving them more anxiety than they should have. That's not a good leader. You got to really inspire people, because if you put yourself in their shoes and you needed some sort of inspiration, you don't want to listen to anybody that's going to make you feel like shit, you know? And so we have to really help the collective. We have to be better in communication. And that's one of the things that is happening right now with this full moon and an eclipse opposing Mercury, our communication in Virgo. Okay? Because, Mercury in Virgo, it can be very critical. Okay? It could be very critical, very judgmental, very critical, as if that person's perfect. You know what I mean? Everybody has flaws. And right now it's at 5 degrees, okay, of entertainment, of 5 degrees of children. There might be critics towards children, towards Hollywood, towards actors, the industry, entertainment. So if you do have children, be more compassionate with your children. Have clarity with your children, be open with your children. It's good for clarity, because when you have clarity, then you can solve things much more faster than, when there's no clarity at all, right? And because it is opposing this eclipse, okay, there is some change that is happening here, because this eclipse is about releasing and letting go, and as it opposes communication. So even though I still took a chance, even though it is opposing our communication, okay, I still took a chance to do the podcast because I think it's very important. And maybe the Spanish one was a little bit too much vomiting on there, which means that I overtalked a lot, and I have to remind myself when I'm speaking about astrology, whether it's English or Spanish, that a lot of people don't know astrology, and I try to simplify it. I really, really do, because I could be talking with big words and all this astrology, but people don't know what that means unless they took a course, unless they took a class, so I like to simplify it. And this is why I storytell, and I try for people to understand it in basic language, and that's how I teach, and I hope people understand it. But I have a feeling the Spanish one was a little bit too much, and I think people didn't really. I don't know. I personally think, and maybe I'm criticizing myself. I don't know. I hope they did get it, but maybe there were some things I think they probably did not get. And I do have to remind myself that they don't know fully astrology, and I have to speak in storytelling, examples, and so forth. And that's how I teach, But something told me like, they probably didn't. Maybe I over talked too much in Spanish, But anyway, that's what keeps people hooked, though, right? As far as hooked in information, right? Wanting to know a little bit more information. It's better to have information than no information at all, you know, and I want people to be aware. I want people to learn. I want people to listen when I talk about the astros, because it could really help you. It could help your family. It could help your friends, you know. You can share some of that information with your friends as well, you know. And I think this is why we are here, to help the collective, you know. So, yeah, so right now, because there is an opposition with Mercury, there could be some kind of problems with communication. Okay. Um, I'm no longer going to talk about the story of hate. What is it, Hayden? Um, I promised myself that I was not. Okay. It's a little bit too addicting. Okay. A lot of people are talking about, a lot of people are doing videos on YouTube. There's a plethora of videos on YouTube. Um, channelers and all this stuff, like connecting with her, you know. And so for me personally, you know, um, I don't know. I'm not going to talk about it no more. You know what I mean? Um, I need to move on, and that's part of this whole Pisces. Pisces rules celebrities. Okay, it rules celebrities. So we're being asked to let go. Okay, let go of all this celebrity. mm, You know, that is just distraction. Okay, towards the real work that you're supposed to do. And so I decided, I prayed to God and I said, you know, adios. Like, I'm not going to talk about that no more. Because it's very controversial, you know. And so if it doesn't affect me, it doesn't apply to me, I'm not going to talk about it, you know. In no great way, you know, if it doesn't affect me in no great way. So, you know, why even delve into that, right? Plus, you know, I like the fact that we're not going to have Pisces anymore, because we're not going to be talking about celebrities. We're not going to be um, we'll still talk about celebrities, but it's not going to be so much like it has been the past years. You know, now it's all about Gemini energy right now, and actually air and fire. And a lot of right now, a lot is Aries and Gemini, um, uh, like Aquarius, okay, and Leo energy. So those are the type of energies right now. We don't even have Earth, you know. We have no Capricorn. We have no more Taurus, but we do have it in Chiron. So we do have to heal. Um, and Virgo, well, we're actually gonna be, Virgo's gonna be trending a lot, okay, at least through the beginning of next year. Because next year, that eclipse is going to be in Virgo. And that's it. No more Pisces, Virgo, Pisces, Virgo, Pisces, Virgo eclipses. So for us, Pisces today was, that's it. We're done with Pisces. But next year, I believe it's sometime in February of 2027, there's going to be an eclipse in Virgo, and that's it. We're done, you know? And now it's just going to be, you know, fire and air that's going to be trending. So we do have to be grounded. Okay, we do have to be grounded, because when fire and air get together, OMG, OMG, okay, it can be very um, prone to anxiety, um, if we're not grounded. Okay, and make a lot of mistakes. We'll want to go really fast, you know, and make ton of mistakes, and lose a lot of money as well, you know. So, but we also can gain money, but we have to make the right decisions. So as the moon opposes this Virgo here, and I don't think that I talked about that in the Spanish podcast, but I am doing it here in English. So if you do know Spanish and English, well, you get a double treat here, okay? So the moon, as it opposes Virgo, it's also at the same time, it is squaring Uranus and Gemini, okay? Now, where it's squaring is in the second house of money, where Uranus is in Gemini at 5 degrees of entertainment, children, Hollywood, gambling, all of that, okay? Travel. And it's in the second house of money, of value, of wealth, okay? Your earning power. And so there is this challenge here of this innovation, right? In the second house of money. Now, where the full moon is in Pisces, it's in the 11th house of community, which is the irony that that is where my Pisces 11th house is. And that's where it is for the collective, in the 11th house of community. And the phrase there is we participate. Okay. So we are letting go in certain areas, circles, friends, acquaintance, humanitarian groups, and so forth. We're releasing in some societies or some groups, some events, some friends, um, when it comes to what we participate in. Okay. And that's for the collective. So, one of the shocking things that I feel can happen because it's squaring Uranus in Gemini in the second house of money, it could be that you've outgrown certain groups, communities, okay? And it pertains to money, right? Um, or there could be some kind of challenge. Maybe you have a discussion over money, over maybe with a friend, or you owe money, or they owe you money, and you no longer want to be around those type of people that owe you a lot of money, or maybe some money, right? And you just don't want to be around those type of people. Okay, if people owe you money, it's not wise to be around those people if they're not gonna, if they have no intention of paying you money, and you have said, hey, you owe me money, and they haven't done it, right? And they just keep brushing it under the rug, then those are not keepers. Okay, and you gotta just sever those type of people in your life, and you just cannot trust those type of people, because in they know well that they have to pay you your money and they're not doing it. That's an example. Okay. And so that's that challenge that can happen there when it comes to money. There could be some situations with groups, people, circles that can owe you money. Okay. And that could be one of the reasons why you decide to just let go and just say, okay, okay, you do owe me money, but you know what? I'm going to let it go. But understand that God's not going to let this go. Okay. So you still got karma to meet with God. There's lessons. Well, karma is lessons. There's lessons that you need to learn, okay, about every action has a reaction, okay? So if you do owe money to someone, you got to pay, okay? And if not, then you're going to deal with God, okay? Because there's always a debt to be paid. So to me, it's telling me this square here that has something to do with money. It has something to do with the community, okay? Or maybe you're not making enough money in a community. Maybe you're not. It could also rule platforms as well, okay? There might be some platforms that you're just, you're not getting views. You're not, and you're putting in the work, and you're getting more views at this other platform. So you decided to just close one of your platforms and just put more effort in the other one. And that could be an example, you know. Um, so, it could pertain to your money. Like you're probably just thinking about your money right now. How can I make more money? How can I make extra money? Or how I can get better views, how I can seem more worthy, more valuable, where there's an exchange of services between videos that I put out there with information that's worthy and get paid for it, So we're doing a lot of thinking of that, and we're organizing. We're cleaning up, we're doing all of that, okay? And it also could mean, because it's in the 11th house, you might move to a new community. There might be an opportunity for you to move to a new community. One of the challenges that can be, because Uranus is in the second house of money, it could be money, okay? But because it's Uranus, okay, an unexpected shock, maybe of money, can come through, okay? In order for you to move out of this community. And maybe the challenge there is maybe they don't want you to move. But now it's too late. Like, you came up with the money. It came by some miracle, some money came through, or maybe you hit the lotto, because that could be another reason too. Okay, it could be that you play the lotto and shockingly, unexpectedly, you win, right? That's a good story, right? I'm always playing the lotto, by the way, because I am a five personal number this year. So it is a number of gambling. So there's more likely that you can win money when you're gambling on a five number. And it's a lucky number as well. It's adventurous and so forth. I'm making the best out of it. So the best I can do is play the lotto. And I'm always winning here and there. I did mention in the Spanish podcast that I won. I bought me a ticket yesterday, and I was just testing my luck, to see if I'm lucky or not. And especially the Super Lotto, it's been growing and growing. I don't know why nobody's been winning, but it's been growing. Somebody should have won already, and nobody has won. It's been growing and growing. And anyway, but to me, I don't care. Even if I would just win $1 million, I would be happy. You know what I mean? But I just played for the fun of it, just to test my luck. And I bought me $1, only one ticket, and it cost me $1. Okay. A candy bar costs more than that. And so I just said, what the heck? I'm just going to buy one ticket. Who cares? And so I bought me a ticket and I won. Okay. I won the Powerball, and I think it was like two more numbers. Um, and so, yeah, I think that's like, I don't know how much it is, but it's for me. I said, oh, it's chump change. That can help me buy me, like, I don't know, things I need or whatever. It's not like huge money, but it was just $1. So I got my ROI. I think it was like 30 something dollars that I got. Um, but if it's free, I mean, you only spend $1. That was it. So I think that's a good deal, right? So anyway, for me, I felt lucky. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It was only one ticket, $1, four quarters. As a matter of fact, I did pay with change. I paid with four quarters because I had a bunch of quarters, and I'm like, I'm just going to use them, right? So anyway, as it is opposing, it's opposing Virgo, and then it's with our communication and what's being exposed with the sun as well. And gold, I think I mentioned gold, right? Yeah, gold as well. If you play the stock market and so forth, gold is at 4 degrees. Okay, is conjuncting the sun exactly in Virgo. Okay, so 4 degrees, it's stability, but it's very limited. Okay, it's very restrictive, um, and it kind of reminds me like not everybody can afford gold, you know, and it might just be available to the one percenters, you know, because of the 4 degree. The 4 degree is very, very rigid, very you can't sit here type of degree, you know what I mean? And I have it in Jupiter. So for me, it pertains with my ancestors of having to be exemplary, of having to um, be more professional, you know what I mean? It is a number like of masonry as well. So you might come from a family of Jupiter. Jupiter in Aquarius at 4 degrees might come. You might come from, and that comes from the father's side, by the way, on my 10th house. The 10th house is the father's side. And so my father comes from a lineage of like masonry. And, him and his four brothers, they used to sell bricks to real estate companies. They used to make their own bricks in Mexico. And so that's very masonry. They used to make the red bricks, and they were always in demand. That's what he told me. He said we were always in demand. We had a red truck, and we used to load them on the red truck, and we used to deliver them to these real estate companies, and they used to buy them so they could construct the homes. And, so interesting because, he was born with Jupiter in Capricorn. So, you know, and with that Uranus and Taurus, that's making a trine. So, um, you know, he could have been in real estate, you know. That is a perfect um, a perfect placement, okay, in a chart for real estate, you know. But even though he didn't get into real estate in Mexico, they created the bricks, the red bricks for the real estate homes, right? So they used to get paid a lot of money. His brothers, they were all hustlers, and my grandfather was a hustler as well, very strict as well. So, bricks is very masonry, very hard labor, and so forth. And, that's where I have Jupiter at 4 degrees, ruling ancestry, and there's this. I'm releasing all of that, of the need to work hard, you know, and that comes from my father, like he always wanted me to work hard, you know, and he said if you don't work hard, then you're not going to make money. But that's not a good mindset to have, because in today's world, that's not what it is. It's actually the opposite, is working smarter, not harder. And I'm releasing all of that, because it doesn't work in today's society anymore with all this AI and technology and everything. And I understand that comes from his side, and it's very traditional and so forth. But there's this expectation of, like, you got to be professional, and not be this wild Aquarius, be more, have standards and so forth. And I do. I think I have a good reputation, you know. And if there's people that talk bad about me, it's only because they're jealous, you know. But you can ask anybody about me. I mean, even back into my grammar school, even in elementary school, if you would interview anybody that I went to school with, they will tell you Laura was such a sweet girl. Was. But yeah, they don't have nothing bad to say about me. They don't. They don't. I was a cheerleader in school, in elementary school, and I was mostly kind of quiet. I was going through a lot, in school and home and everything, but you know, I was always, kind to people, you know, and so forth. And but I don't think they could say anything bad about me. Everybody remembers me of being a sweet girl. That's why I think that if they still follow me, in social media, they can't believe what's happened to my life, right? Like, it's crazy. A lot of people do say, like, I cannot believe, that she turned out to be like this. Like, is she famous or what's going on? And like, nope, I am not famous. And so, I'm not into, like, there's people that really want to be famous, and I'm thank God that I'm not in that phase of, like, I want to be famous and I want to be, I don't know, I'm just tired of it, to tell you the truth. I'm really worn out with the whole fame thing. And it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm just changing, and just trying to be a business person, trying to be inspirational, be a humanitarian, help people and so forth. That is what brings my greatest joy. And being a service, and getting paid well for it, you know. So as it squares Uranus, something unexpected could happen, okay, as it opposes our communication. And so we do have to be careful also what we say. And I'm not going to speak more on that because I almost got in trouble today. Some of my posts were deleted because it was too much. And I do understand that. Maybe my emotions got the best of it. But like I said, I'm not getting involved no more in no celebrity thing. I'm letting that go. Especially right now, perfect timing for the eclipse to let go of all the celebrity junk stuff going on. Um, so, you know, we're all learning lessons in that. So the most, I do have to say though, I mean, we did talk about the T square, which is opposing Virgo and squaring over here Uranus and Gemini, something unexpected, revelations coming out. Let's talk about the good stuff here, before I log off. The moon is making a trine to Mars in Cancer. Okay, so the moon in Cancer is at 10 degrees of Capricorn. So there could be some sort of information regarding real estate. Okay, and it's in harmony. Okay. And where Mars in Cancer is, it is in the third house of communication. Okay. Something that we're communicating about real estate, about properties, about families, and so forth. And this eclipse in Pisces, which is a water sign, of what we are letting go, we're making room for maybe a new home, maybe a new community, right? And we're communicating about it. Okay. This is also meditation. This is also prayer with God. This is also manifestation. You want to manifest a house and so forth. It's a really great time to do that. Okay. Um, and but I do have to say, as the moon is getting along very well with Mars in Cancer, when it comes to real estate, at the degree of real estate, Mars here in Cancer is being squared by Saturn. Okay. So maybe that's why I am feeling this quietness, like very mysterious. Like this eclipse came in Pisces, very quiet, but do not think that there's nothing going on because there is. Okay. You just got to be aware. Okay. And right now, be calm, be grounded. Before I hopped on the podcast, I hopped on my fitness plate to just kind of, move around my body and so forth. I love my fitness plate. I just do. I'm addicted to it. And it's good because it's the exercise. But it shakes out my body, before it shakes out my body, my lymphatic system and so forth. And this is why I think I'm losing weight as well, in combination with like, juices and whatnot. But I think it's one of the reasons because even my arms, like I'm like, oh my God, my arms are getting like shape, like muscular, and they weren't like that before. And a lot of it is because I use my arms also on the fitness plate, and it moves it around, it shakes it all over. So Mars squaring Saturn. I don't know what that had to do with this, but Mars squaring Saturn is a challenge when it comes to discipline, when it comes to standards. Um, so even though the moon is getting along with Mars, this eclipse is getting along with Mars in Cancer, Mars is squaring Saturn. Okay. So there could be something about how we take action that is bringing a challenge to uh, maybe some discipline, maybe standards, maybe the police, maybe higher authority billionaires. Um, so, how we take action, we got to strategize how we take action. And we got to see how Saturn is situated. Okay, so let's look at Saturn real quick here. Um, let's see. Where are you? Let me. Well, let me look at Saturn first. Okay, it is. Okay, Saturn is at 13 degrees. Okay, it moved out of the 14 degree. So now it's at 13 degrees, it's retrograde. So it has to do with the past. So 13 degrees has to do with athletes. It has to do with Mars energy. Okay. And it has to do also with action, competition. Okay. It also has to do with leadership as well. Okay. Um, and that is challenging Mars in Cancer. Okay. So there probably has to be some rules that you have to go by, signing contracts. Maybe there are a lot more requirement than usual. Okay. Maybe maybe they want to sell the home to maybe an athlete, or somebody that brings in leadership skills, that is going to transform a community, that's going to transform a state, a country, or some form of some sort of way. So as it makes a challenge to Mars and Cancer, we just need to strategize, okay, of what are the requirements, um, in order to maybe purchase that house, right? Um, and what are the qualifications and so forth, and maybe getting an attorney, to help you sign paperwork and documents and so forth. You just got to strategize, you got to strategize and see what they're asking for, right? And depending what you agree upon, it's either yes or no, right? So that could be a challenge going on, okay? Um, So that's what we have here. I mean, I could go on and on, but I think I just wanted to hit the points on this eclipse, dating back to, like I said, 23 years ago. Having to release all of that, all the drama, all the struggles, all the injustices, all of that. Know that God's going to take care of all that. You just have to let that go. Because if you don't let that go, when are you going to start this new venture? When are you going to start a new cycle? When are you going to start this new lifestyle that you want so much when the past is holding you back, right? And so for me, an example, I always say like moving out of the town I live in and moving into a town where it's not going to be a reminder of maybe what I did when I worked at the ports. And there's nothing wrong with that. I am not ashamed of saying I am very proud of being a longshoreman in my past. I did it for a whole decade. I'm very proud of it. But there's also comes a lot of memories for me of like power trips and just stress and anxiety. And I used to get so anxious every time I used to go work out there, just making sure that I was going to come home and, you know, in all body parts, and I was going to come to a warm bed. That's what they always say. We always used to pray, not all of us, but those that are faith believers. There were some faith believers out there. Well, you had to believe in God to work out there. I don't know how people do it that do not believe in God and had to work out there. That's insane. I would have never made it without God. Okay. Um, but God took me out at the right time, you know. And so, but I'm very proud of have working out there, but I would like to here, living here in the ports, it's always a reminder that I did work out there and I'm very proud to serve there for a decade, but um it also brings back the bad memories as well, like times when I was so pissed off, and just so angry, like because there was a lot of different people that we worked out there, at the ports, including criminals, okay, that been in jail and they hate women, okay. There was a lot of men, there was a lot of woman haters that, I got to work with. Just because you're a woman, they just hate you, they don't care. And so that was kind of scary, you know what I mean? And working in an environment like that, but I had to toughen up. This is why I feel everything was prophecy, and God had me work out there to toughen up, and because what I was going to come against was going to be pretty tough, right? So, I accepted the mission, and now I just want to do things that I love, um, but I just feel blessed that, I did get to work out there, but living in a town that always reminds me of what I did, um, doesn't really feel that good. You know what I mean? And so, when I see ships, I mean, it's normal to see ships and stuff like that. But, I would like to live in a town that it's not a reminder of what I did, and start over, on a brand new slate and have a different lifestyle and eat more, be more healthier as well. Being healthy is very important for me because I do have a lot of sixth house. And when you have a lot of sixth house, you tend to get sick more often than usual than others. And you have to, um, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I even think that I have asthma, to tell you the truth, for living here for that long. Um, I don't use an inhaler or nothing like that. And I'm not like losing my breath or nothing like that. Thank God. But also helping me lose weight has really helped me into, you know, not have breathing problems like that, But I wouldn't be surprised if I do, only because I've lived here for so long and I used to work inside the ports, where it's toxic for, like I said, 10 years. Um, but anyway, that is just, what we have going on for the eclipse, it is a time to let go and understand that if you don't let go, that the eclipse is going to do it for you. Okay? The eclipse is going to do it for you. It's like, oh, you don't want to let that go. You don't want to let that person go. You don't want to let the situation go. Okay, then I'll do it for you. And the eclipse is very rebellious, okay? And it's going to do however it wants to do. It said, I gave you a choice for you to release. You didn't want to, so now I'm going to do it, okay? And I've seen that happen before, okay? It's even happened in my life. And when it's forced upon, okay, by the eclipse, and it does it for you because you didn't take action, then you're going to be mad. But the eclipse is like, but I gave you a chance and you didn't want to do it. You're just playing games and just, you thought I wasn't serious, and now here I did it for you, right? And so those are examples that can happen with eclipses when there's something that you have to let go and you're not doing it, the eclipse is going to do it for you. There's going to be something where it's going to either separate you from what you need to let go in a way where, I don't know, it's very ruthless with the eclipse, okay? Where it's going to keep you so busy. It might be you might get sick, and it might keep you so busy you trying to be healthy that you have no time in putting attention to what you wouldn't let go. And so now you're sick, and now you got to take care of yourself, right? And so that could be how the eclipse can make things happen if you don't take action and let go. Okay. So that is what's happening. I did want to talk really quick. Let me see. The Saibin symbol of Pisces 4, which is very important. The title there is Getting Out of Our Own Way. Okay. And the Saibin symbol is very important because it has to do with the degree. The degree is 4. Okay. So what it is heavy traffic on a narrow isthmus. So this is a symbol of the ultimate uh, limitation of human relationships, dramatized here in the more personal and ever ramifying environment of everyday affairs. There are no potentialities of common self-interest that man cannot shape for the convenience and encouragement of a whole selfhood and a well integrated community, but a high discipline is always necessary for both the individual and the group in each particular development of a medium reality. So the key word is convergence. When positive, the degree of 4 is an unusual gift for organizing all transient enterprise in patterns of a rewarding and overall effectiveness. And when negative, stubborn blindness to the general welfare of others happens. Okay, so it's very important that 4 degree. Um, and what else it talks about here? I don't know what that is. So it's getting out of our own way. I did talk about it in the Spanish podcast a little bit more. And what it is, not only getting out of our own way, but it's a traffic. Okay. And there's a lot of goats like working in a very narrow street or community. And there's a lot of cars like bumping next to each other, bumper to bumper, and there's a lot of traffic going on. But the problem is that it's so narrow, it's so limited, that nobody's having fun. There's just more anxiety going on because there's not enough space, not enough space has created for big traffic, you know, coming to our way, right? And I said the example of our town. We're building this West Harbor, and it's looking beautiful and everything. But I've mentioned that I don't think there's enough parking spaces, to tell you the truth. Right now, it's good for now. But once they start doing the concerts and so forth, there's not enough spaces to park. you know, unless they create other locations where they can park cars and so forth. And I mentioned an idea like the Dodger stadiums, you know, what they do is they bus them, and instead of driving up to the stadium, what they do is they get the bus, and the bus drives it, you know, they go in groups of friends, and the bus will drive them up to Dodger Stadium. You know, it's a private bus for just for Dodger Stadium, you know, people that buy their ticket and so forth. And that's what they do. They bus them in, you know. But maybe there's other ideas that are going to happen in our town. But one of the problems that I do see is the parking structures. There's not enough parking for a big concert that can happen like 2 years from now when they start installing and working on the concert venue, right? Because we know here in San Pedro, there's a lot of, when they do a concert, there's a lot of people that come here. It gets jam packed, right? And the parking spaces that they have right now is not enough. Okay, so that's an example of this Pisces 4. Pisces has to do with music. Okay, 4 is limitation, or it could be that music can start getting limited, but because it's an eclipse, maybe that's ending. Okay, and you have to create and strategize other ways to facilitate the 4 degree in Pisces. You know, it could be the water, the ocean as well. You know, there might be limitations to that. You know, so, but it's an eclipse, so it's what we're releasing, we're letting go, right? Uh, we're letting that go. So anyway, that is a Siberian symbol. I know I went more into depth in Spanish, but I need to cut it off here, or it's going to cut me off. And it's heavy traffic on a narrow community. Okay, that is what this degree is in the eclipse, and so it's time to create new ideas. Okay, find acceptance in your community, open spaces for new people, a new culture, um, you know, for it to be a better community. Okay, so if you did like this podcast, do like, do share, do subscribe. And Also, if you are looking for a reading, you want to go more deeper, you can head out to my website at www.starzenith33.com. You can set an appointment there, and I go by appointments. And, you know, and that's that. So hopefully you guys have a great night and a restful night. Good night.